Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Our conversation now is about conversational AI and how it improves the human to human customer experience. We're very honored today to present you with a panel, including Shaun Kniffin from the Germain Motor Company, Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln, and Josselyn Boudett from STELLA Automotive AI. Everybody, welcome and welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks,
Thank
Ted.
you. Glad to be back.
Josselyn, when you were here just a couple months ago, I've seen a lot happening with conversational AI, and I'm so intrigued today that we've got these two top retailers to share some information with us. And Shaun, if it's okay, I'm going to call you Kniff. I know that you are in the process and you've been working with STELLA Automotive AI for some time. Give us some background, Shaun. How does conversational AI deliver or help deliver a better customer experience over the phone?
So over the phone it's been one of our biggest challenges when it comes to getting the phones answered. You know, we're running on very thin staffing. When you look at that, you think to yourself, okay, customer just wants to talk to someone. We've all experienced that. But when we came across STELLA, what happened is that we were like, oh, this is very different, because we've already been acclimated to textual AI and using chats and text and so forth. And we do know that that's an appropriate platform for people to communicate with the store. And sometimes it's more preferred than anything else. But when we saw the conversational AI, we're like, oh, this is a bit of a game changer, because one of the biggest complaints that we have with our stores when it comes to looking at the data is like, okay, why aren't we getting the phone answered? How many times does a customer have to call back? And this takes a big chunk of that data and moves it into something that customers will say, oh, that was easy. So in a minute and a half, we can get a scheduled service appointment using AI, and mission accomplished, right? It leaves the sophisticated conversations to the face-to-face, or what we call lips to ears conversations that customers want to have about the car. They don't need to talk to someone about this. And if they don't want to use their mobile device or a computer to schedule this, and they just want to use the phone, you know, I think it's funny because we often refer to this as we have the newest technology being driven to the oldest technology in the store. We have the computer driving traffic to the phone, of all things, right? And it's amazing how important that phone call still is to this day, and to have a good experience.
And what's also equally amazing, Kniff, is that, you know, we're talking about answering the phone, right? Which is not supposed to be rocket science. Give us the overview on Germain. I know you're in multiple states. Give us a little bit of the backdrop, because I know you have many locations.
Yeah, we have stores in Phoenix and Michigan and Ohio and Florida and soon to be Montana. So it is interesting. But when we looked, we've been partners with a company called Call Review for many years now, since about 2011. And that's always been the premise: is how often does a customer have to call back in? Can we get the phone answered the first time? Does the customer reach the agent that they originally called into? So we've always been engaged with that, and as far as getting the phone answered on the first ring. And we have other partners like Marchex, which take that into consideration as well for stores like Cadillac. But getting the phone answered you would think it'd be simple, right? But people are busy. And when there's a customer standing in front of you, your focus needs to be with that customer. It's not about the phone that's ringing. It's about that face-to-face interaction you're having. Or if you're dealing with a complicated situation, it's good to have those conversations with the customer and not be interrupted.
And if this is a conversation that the dealers on the Fixed Ops Roundtable have been having now, Ed Roberts, you recall just 2 months ago at our last event, the phones were the #1 topic of conversation. Talk to us about this from your perspective.
A lot of times we can't answer the phone because we got somebody in front of us and we don't want to be rude to them, and we need some things to fill some of those voids. And if we don't have those things to fill the voids, the next thing you know, we have a drop call, or we have somebody calling our competition, and or it's an unanswered call to begin with. And so when we can fill some of those voids to kind of help bridge that, then it increases our efficiency. The customer never knows the difference. And some of the stuff is just repetitive anyway. If they got a question about this or that, and it's a repetitive question, we can fill those voids right from the beginning and then make our advisor more efficient when we get to it. So it helps us all the way around. but the key to it is embracing technology.
And Ed, I think that Kniff is right. We've known from the metrics that many dealers have been measuring, yours as well, that this is an issue for some time, but now we need to address it. Josselyn, give us a little of the background on conversational AI over the phone and how that works.
Yeah, well, I'll just start with it's very new technology. I think most of us have the experience in other parts of life besides automotive that phones aren't really good anywhere. If anybody's flown recently or booked a hotel or tried to call tech support. So we're incredibly excited to have a technology that is very leading edge. It has zero latency. It's incredibly smart. It's well thought out. The product is nimble and it meets the customer where they are. STELLA opens with "How can I help you?" and is pretty much armed and ready for bear, no matter what they say. And if they say they want an appointment, STELLA can handle that completely. So we think that's exciting. I think there are other tasks that you could expect AI to lean in on the phone and in chat, where the intelligence is going to accelerate dramatically in the next year and 2 years. So we love being in this market. We love dealers. We find that dealers need and want help. They need and want good vendors that listen. And we have not found very much resistance. Most people are at least curious, and most are willing to give us a try. And in those cases, we find that the product goes on and doesn't turn off.
Josselyn, I'm also excited that you are in the fixed op space because we all know that when
Yeah.
that phone rings, service is where a lot, if not the majority of those calls, Josselyn, are going.
Yeah, and I think, the hallmark of our era is self-service. People want things immediately. They do not like holding. I think the IVR answering the telephone is a death toll. The minute you hear it, you already know it's you versus the IVR, and you're going to figure out what number to press to get your needs met. So I think having something just even from a brand alignment standpoint that just says, "How can I help you?" is a very different experience, very refreshing. And even if in many cases the same action occurs, which is we transfer the call, we used AI to do it, and it's magical, and customers like it.
Josselyn, I know that
It's proper routing right from the beginning when AI can ask the right questions and know the direction it needs to go in.
I know that both Ed and Kniff are very interested in the dealership in-person customer experience, as is our audience. Josselyn, I understand there are things in the works, things that are coming, and I want to talk to you a little bit about conversational AI and how that's going to impact the actual in-dealership experience for the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, we can unpack a lot there, but I would say conversational AI that people might misperceive. There's a lot of technology in listening and speaking. It's an incredibly advanced amount of AI to make something that can hear a human, figure out what they said, and talk to them. And there's magic in dialogue management. There's magic in understanding accents, intents, generating responses that are appropriate. So obviously that's very exciting, and we think that technology has a lot of use in the dealership for both customers and employees. I think over time, you're going to see there's self-serve on a telephone. Customers have 3 choices to engage with you: your website, the telephone, or coming to your dealership. And I think all 3 needs to be consistently intelligent. So if somebody walks into a dealership and nobody knows who they are, that's a tragedy. So I think AI has something to help. One thing AI can do that people can't is simultaneous equations. So where a person has to go through a linear process to look up a person's phone number or get their car, find their VIN, go find their credit report, there's a set of things that need to occur, and AI can do them all simultaneously. So we use that on the telephone today. I think 60 to 70% of callers are repeat customers. And so when we call, if they have an appointment, we ask if they're calling to reschedule it. If they, and we don't ask them questions we don't need to ask them. And I think AI is going to bring that onto the floor of the dealer, where I think sales teams and staff are going to be better equipped with better tools, probably mobile, that have extreme intelligence in them, probability type mechanisms where, suggestions of what might be a good thing to talk to this person about or suggest to them, knowledge of forethought of, that they're, the quality of customer that they are and what they might be looking for, saves tons of time. And I think you don't really have to talk abstractly. I think we all have that experience. You like going places where you're known, where you're respected, where your time is treated efficiently. And, the other side of that, the staff just can't afford to deal with. It's just so hard to staff right now. You need to move people through faster. I was renting a car the other day. It took like 18 minutes. I'm like, it wasn't in my fast track. And I'm like, oh my God, it felt like I'd gone back 30 years in time. It was just like mind boggling. I'd have 18 minutes to rent a car. But I think, but the buying a car experience, it might be like that too, where it's like, look, just moving through things faster. Think of Star Trek, think of Captain Kirk. Hey, computer, where's Khan? Well, you have, where's Josselyn? And, did she buy her car? She's still on property. AI will be able to know things like this.
Wow.
Knowing where staff is, where cars are, where people are, where keys are. So I think it's exciting. I think there's a lot coming that are going to help dealers. And of course, the customer has this incredible opportunity these days to buy the most advanced technology on earth in almost any car. And so I think the environment that sells the car needs to be as sophisticated as the environment inside the car that you're selling.
Boy, I couldn't have said that better myself. Kniff, there's a lot there on the in dealership experience. Talk to us about that, because it sounds like some exciting things are headed our way.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and my mind was racing forward too, as some conversations we've had in the past where, we sell $50,000 vehicles, and yet when someone calls in, we can't identify that customer. Where we can order a $12 pizza from down the street, and everyone goes, "Hey, do you want the same one as last time?" "Yeah, no problem." And in a minute and a half, you're done, right? I see that coming forth with the AI, is to be able to identify a customer and their value. Sort of if you had a mosaic for each one of your customers. So I think that personalization is one thing that allows dealership to progress, is to take the technology and make it your servant, and not your master. And the ability to look into the database and recognize that this is a customer is coming down the road where we're saying, hey, this customer needs preferential treatment. Sort of like when you went through the rental car place and you weren't treated like the Hertz Gold member that you probably are, right? You get used to that certain level of service. So I think that's what's coming down the road with dealerships, is the ability to add a lot of personalization to their experience, not just speed it up, but to make it a better experience. So quality of interaction. When a customer shows up in the dealership now, it shouldn't be complicated, but sometimes it is, because there's something wrong with the car and we can't figure out the problem. Sometimes you need to have what we call the high touch behind the high tech. And the high touch is why we have people on staff to interact with the customer when they come through the drive, because there's some things you can do with a computer and there's just some things you just can't replace.
Amazing. You're exactly right. Ed, I'm thinking about a lot of the conversations that you and I have been involved with, that have discussed EVs and Tesla and the advantages that the dealers have over that. And Ed, I know that you've worked very hard to reduce that sales time when a customer, buys a vehicle. I heard David Boyle talk about that on a panel just a couple hours ago. Talk to us a little bit, Ed, about that in dealership experience.
Well, first I got to tell Kniff that I'm still in the high touch behind the high tech. I love that phrase. But let's take it back to culture for a bit, because we all have culture, whether it's good culture or bad culture, and you can kind of feel that when you walk into a place. But at the end of the day, when everybody goes home, it's brick and mortar. And it's the people that show up that bring that culture. And it starts at the top, and the direction and the vision and values and all those things that comes together, but people can feel it. That's our physical showroom and our physical service drive. But we also have a digital showroom and a digital service drive that we can't necessarily dispel that same culture in. So we have to drop those nuggets out there to keep that level of engagement, because we can't look out and see if someone's is not necessarily where they need to be. They're a little bit disgruntled. We can't see that in the digital showroom or digital service drive. So AI fills those gaps. And what I hear coming down the pipeline there is just, that's music to my ears, because now I can keep that level of engagement at a higher level without even being able to see them. And that's key to me.
And Josselyn, it's refreshing to hear from the retailers here that that is of great interest to them as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think having a digital assistant technology, it has to be conversational. It has to speak natural language, and because people can't speak in SQL. So, this front end engagement needs to be a friendly thing that understands the topics and interests of the stakeholders of the car dealer.
Love it. Kniff, one of the things we've heard a lot about recently here at the Roundtable is that the dealers have this rich first-party data, and how can they use that and embrace that to help create a better customer experience using conversational AI? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so this is an adventure that started with Meloshenko and I about 5 years ago. And we wanted to develop a not necessarily a marketing strategy, but more of a communication strategy. Some of the legacy thinking that happens in our dealer world is that we tend to try to do things the way we've always done things. And John and I were putting our heads together, and we finally came across the idea of, let's develop a centralized data platform, a data lake, as some people call it, right? And what we wanted to do was get that data unsiloed out of the DMS systems and bring it into a central core where we could communicate with the customer based on the car that they drive, not the location in which they bought it from. So we had a company called Outsell develop that centralized data platform for us from scratch. And it's been so amazing to work with this, because our first initiative was really said, get the data and then get the data right. And they came back to us and they said, hey, we got good news and we got bad news. And we pulled data, and we pulled 5 years of data, and we found out we have 1 million records. That's the good news. The bad news is 40% of it is unusable. So we're like, well, what does that mean? So what we had to do is literally go back and clean up the data, begin to use the data correctly, and we use AI to do that as well. So it's important to work with clean data, because as you move downstream from clean data is the ability to enhance other data sets using your clean data. So the ability for a customer to call in using the AI and to be identified correctly with the right VIN, like having a VIN cleanse thing, that's all in place for us. That's what's amazing about it. If you get your data right, you can fix a lot of problems. And let's face it, the DMS companies out there have not done dealers a whole lot of help when it comes to getting their data cleaned up, right? And that was our struggle. So we're very proud of that accomplishment, and we think that moving down the road, there's other dealers falling in behind us, because most dealer groups under 50 stores, they're not talking about developing a centralized data platform. No. So we feel like we're there.
Kniff, John Meloshenko was on the show, not just today, but 1.5 years ago. And he was talking about that exact process that you're telling us about now. So I see how all this will fit like a glove. And you've got a big edge there at Germain, and having started on that journey. Ed, you've heard about that rich first-party data dealers. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Shaun hit it with clean data. The clean data almost helps us do a needs assessment, so that we're better prepared when we reach out to our customers. And when we can reach out to them and meet them at their level and already have an idea of where they're at and what they need, half the game is half over. We've already connected with them, so to speak.
Yep, love it. Josselyn, tell us some more.
Clean data, baby. AI loves it. We hate being wrong. Our job is the right answer to the question. And I think for people and AIs, we are embarrassed when we have the wrong answer. So getting that data right is incredibly important. We do have a role in it. Conversational AI gathers a lot of information speaking to people. We take great care to make sure it's transcribed and put back into the data systems of our, dealer customers. We inject, and we took great care to understand repairs and maintenance and brands and their differences between them and what they call things, and get the language right to match the data. And we do inject and select opcodes. We do inject all the notes of what the customer said. We do and are able to collect digital rights and ask the dealer if it's okay to call them. We do and are able to ask them survey questions and ask them if they're happy. So there's just a lot of information that the conversational AI can get that's very simple but incredibly powerful. When you pair a healthy, smart back end with a smart AI talking to your smart customers, it yields. It's probably the best data. And to be honest, you're getting that all day long on your phones. Your teams aren't capturing it, and they can't. They're getting shelled. So it's not really. It's just you can standardize some of these things and get it right. Say the brand right every time, get the data right every time, do the record right every time on simple things. And as Niff said, save the hard things for the people, and the relationships for the people. But when people know what they want, you give it to them.
If I would think that a dealer or dealer group, if they're not now or soon to be using conversational AI, I think they're going to be very much behind, okay, if they don't get a jump on it soon.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I mean, whether it's what we're talking about here, or conversational AI, or just using your data intelligently, what we did was that we had to govern how we were communicating with our customers. In other words, get the data right, use the data correctly, because let's face it, a lot of dealers abuse their data.
Yeah.
And the other one was giving third-party access to clean data, which I literally just got off a call 45 minutes ago with another company. And I said, why do you need to go back to the DMS? Why don't we just plug you into the centralized data platform? And they were like, you would do that? I'm like, absolutely. Why should you fuddle through all that mess? And what's really going to be cool about this, and this is really getting geekish, is that imagine what you can find out about consumer behavior when you're looking at how we engage with that customer and the data, like to understand geographic, psychographic, and demographics, and to be able to drop your data into mosaics and understand like where your customers are coming from, why they're engaging with you, sort of like click trail data. When you start getting into that, your marketing budgets go to nothing, because you're not trying to boil the ocean anymore. You're just trying to create a great customer experience through personalization and the proper use of technology that makes life easier for customers. It all works together eventually, right? But it's not that it's hard. It's hard work. But the reward on the other side is the technology does what we can't do effectively or efficiently. That's what's cool about this tech.
And what I'm hearing also, Ed, come to you on this, is this application will not only really enhance the service experience, but also I'm thinking of the parts department too, right? And how we retail those parts and wholesale those parts. This has implications far reaching there as well.
Wouldn't it be so much better to have someone answer the phone in parts and not say parts hold, please, as you hear so commonly in dealerships? And Josselyn is singing our language there. It allows us to meet customers at their level faster. It allows us to make a personalized connection. It allows us to enhance that first impression and increase the level of the last impression, because those are the two things that the customers retain. It's their first impression with you, whether it's digital or in person, and then the last impression. When we can enhance those two things, we all win. And then going back to Niff there with retention, that puts it out there for us. And as Tully says, we are in the repeat referral business. And when you focus on retaining what you have, you don't have to spend near the money on conquest.
Josselyn, I think you got a winner here with this conversational AI, and where there may have been in the not too distant past some resistance, 6 months ago, a year ago, that is less and less. And dealers are open to it, and they're hearing from their peers about, like you're hearing today, that this is now and this is working.
It is working. And, just for realistic expectations, we're talking like 20% of calls. It's not like, you still have calls, but just imagine 20% of your calls peeled off and handled with 8.5 score.
Yeah. That
Right.
Pareto
And
principle
then,
was exactly what I was going to bring up too, because I looked at the newest store in our group that's on STELLA, and I was shocked. I'm like, we're just getting started, and the numbers are pretty significant in regards to how many people said, "Yeah, I can do that," and and as those customers come back through again and recycle back through, they're going to be able to schedule appointments even more effectively. So as word gets out, I think that number is going to go from 20% to, I would dare say, in the next 2 years, maybe 50% of customers will say, "Oh, that's easy. I'll just press a button and I'll get scheduled." Done. Right. So yeah, I think 20% right now it's a conservative number, but I will tell you, I've seen numbers in our group already that are higher than 20%. It's pretty significant.
Shaun, are you using STELLA in just a few stores, all the stores? Give us that background.
We're live in a few stores and we're installing in a few others. So it's one of those things where we tend to, as you know, John, we're decentralized. So each store has to make their own decision when it comes to that.
Okay, love it. And the startup process with STELLA, in terms of when you first brought it in, how difficult was that?
I don't think it's complicated at all. I mean, it requires some technology involvement, right? You have to get our phone provider, which we're pretty good there. That's one thing when people talk about their phone systems, they don't talk about enough is the mechanics and the architecture of their phone system. Like, how many times should the phone ring before STELLA kicks in? They say, "Oh, 5 or 6 rings." Well, that's 40 seconds. That's a long time to be on the phone before someone answers, right? So we actually go collaboratively and consultatively with the STELLA team, who have been fantastic, by the way, to work with. So again, you're sort of blending the human part of this thing with operational acumen with the technology. You got to know how each store is supposed to operate, and believe me, if there's an issue, you got to be able to figure it out quickly, because you don't want people getting frustrated with the technology. It should make their life easier. So we spend a lot of time with that.
Adam, coming to you, and then Josselyn for the last word.
Well, absolutely. Like Neff said, you gotta make sure the technology is enhancing things. And if it's enhancing things, then we're all winning. And I think he's a little bit conservative. He says we're 20% now, in a couple of years it could be 50%. At the rate that things shift now, we could be at 70% in a couple of years, and we have to prepare for it. And the last thing you want to be is on the other side of that 2 years from now, because we didn't prepare for it early. So this is the time to fill some of those voids and help your digital showroom with first impressions, and your digital service drive with having someone that can help fill those gaps and kind of help you with that needs assessment, so you can offer more personalized service.
Love it. Josselyn.
We're incredibly proud to have the product. We're excited about, I think it's day one. And conversational systems, and we all grew up knowing they were going to be here someday, and they're here. And it's exciting to be a company that's delivering that. It's a very special situation for us. We've got really top people in the industry working here that are passionate about dealers. So we're having a good time. I encourage anybody that's listening to give us a call, StellaAutomotive.com.
Great. Great honor, Josselyn, to have you here today to talk about it with our audience at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Shaun Kniffin from Germain Motor Company, thank you so much. On behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Ed Roberts, thank you. I want to wish all of you and your families a happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up next week. And thank you on behalf of the Roundtable for all that you do for our industry.
Thank you, Ted.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody, Josselyn Boudett from STELLA Automotive AI with the panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.